Okay.
I sent you a series of questions, and just let me give you some context. Where there's a group, it's a group presentation. Uh, each group had to pick a time in the lifespan development. We
Okay.
we chose um, infant 0 to 2, basically,
Okay.
and the assignment is to it's a 30-minute presentation on a piece or a theory or in that lifespan, and then a direct, bring in a direct relation conversation interview with someone in that time span. Not, we can't interview Teddy, but we can interview moms and with with children in this time span.
Cool.
So we sort of looked at it from, what's the impact of social media, because that
Yeah.
comes up a lot in class. Um, what's the truth, and then sort of what do we hear, and how do we reconcile the two? So that's where these questions come from.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the background.
Okay.
This discussion, I'll either excerpt clips from it, words, and or maybe even a video piece.
Okay.
We'll see. So if you would just provide a little brief introduction, who, what, age, stage, etc.
Sure. So, my name is Catherine McLaughlin, formerly Catherine Clifton, first daughter of Jim Clifton. I have recently become a new mom. I have a 20-week-old little boy, and his name is Theodore, goes by Teddy. And yeah, I think that answered all of those questions. Of
Awesome. Thank you for participating. Twist
course.
your arm, you'll get a small gift basket will be sent to your house.
Wow, that's exciting.
Um, describe, and I'm just going to go right down the list. Describe your social media usage before, during, and after birth.
Okay. Before, so I am in my mid 30s, so I'll start there because I think that's an important piece of information. So I would say before I was pregnant, I've kind of maintained the same amount, I think, of social media usage before and during pregnancy. And I guess really after too. But I post sparingly. I wouldn't say I'm a frequent poster, and I'm definitely more of a consumer. So I like to watch some of the short reels and kind of just follow some news. I do work in the sports industry, so I do follow a lot of sports accounts or like podcast accounts of sports figures. So, like, I would say that's a lot of what my feed is. Since getting pregnant, obviously the algorithm starts spitting out a lot more pregnant, pregnancy like information, or, as usual, it's just like stuff that is applicable to you, I think, at any given stage of your life. So, got a lot of the pregnancy stuff. But yeah, I think I very rarely post, but I like to consume. So that's kind of like my social media.
Specifically, which platforms have you tried? Some didn't like them.
Yeah, I am primarily an Instagram user. I really only use Facebook for Facebook Marketplace.
Me
And
too.
I'm not like a Threads person or an X person. I'm not a TikToker. Although I do feel like a lot of TikTok stuff gets put on Instagram, so that would be like, I guess, how I consume any of the TikTok stuff.
And how did so? Let's go back pre-pregnancy, young adult. How did you find out about information in social media?
Um, so pre-pregnancy. Honestly, I don't know if I was looking for too much. I was looking for kind of the headlines of like big, and again, I think I just follow a lot of sports or like big news. So I would kind of read, those headliners or those that 1 or 2 minute videos on certain topics. And then obviously if it sparked my interest, I would go then to Google and then actually start to like find more news sources. Weirdly, like I didn't really follow. I get kind of annoyed with like following any news outlets on Instagram, because then it's always like link in my bio, and then you've got to go to that link, and then you've got to find that actual article, and I find that kind of more annoying. So I did find that I really just kind of look for the headlines on social media, and then I go to like a Google and actually find articles to read.
And pregnancy comes, did that change? Like how did people suggest certain follows to you?
Oh yeah. A lot of people suggest certain follows. I mean, it's so hard. There's so many different things, obviously, with um, different ways to parent. So, first off, you get a lot of feedback on the type of accounts that those people liked to follow based off of the methods that they found helpful, which is, great. But at the same time, I think I just kind of started looking through my explore page more or less and started to just find those accounts that I like gravitated more towards because of like certain parenting styles or advice that they would give. They were always really influencers. I didn't really. I, I am the type of person that can. When once I get really obsessed with something, I will have a tendency to over research. So I made an effort to. I hate to say this, but like not, and I don't want to say not educate myself, but I wanted to educate myself as much as I could without getting crazy about it. So I did find that, sometimes on Instagram, I would have to stay off of it because it started making you worried about a lot of different things that you really didn't need to be worried about. And that became very apparent to me when I started talking to my doctor, especially during pregnancy, of like certain things that were down the road, like not necessarily something that I was dealing with. And that's when I kind of realized, okay, like maybe I need to stay off of this a little bit.
Well, that's interesting. What was the role of your doctor in sort of shaping your information gathering?
Yeah. So I would say like overall, I preferred to talk to my friends and my doctor about really any and all pregnancy and guidance in like initial parenting advice. Obviously I know like we'll form our own as we go through this fun process. But she was pretty pivotal. Again, I we have a very close relationship, and my doctor and I talk a lot. We have ways to like talk to them outside of just appointments. It's just through the portal. So I could ask questions like at any given day, any given time, and she would just shoot it to me straight. So usually I would ask her like pretty frequently, and she would always laugh at me because I would always apologize, and she said like that's what part of like why I'm here.
Would you find it give me some estimates. Like when you went to talk to her, were you taking things from social media and saying, can you help me understand what this is saying? Is this valid or
Yeah, I
different
think
sources?
there were different things like, you have, first off, again, like a lot of influencers are like stressing you out about like certain tests or like how certain things are going to come, like how you're going to get information and how you need to advocate for yourself at the hospital. And like you need to be really concerned about like this, and this. And specifically, like, there was a certain test that I was a little not sure about. And I talked to my doctor and she's like, that is not a normal thing. Like, I don't know where you heard that, but and it just made me realize like, okay, just because some influencer is saying it, like, doesn't mean that that's like normal practice, which I don't think I thought that, but it made
Yeah,
me worried until I had my conversation with my doctor. It's like, you didn't know because they
yeah.
made it sound like it was so normal. And then like, on the same thing, people talk about like this new phenomenon called birth plans. Like that's new as in the last 5 years, really.
Mm.
But like there were all these things that were on, you know, all this like you need to say this, this, and this to the doctors and to make sure that these terrible things don't happen. And like creating all this anxiety and
Mm,
stress around something that is already like very scary because if you've never done it, like I mean, and even if you've done it, like every birth is so different that
mhm.
you don't know. And um anyway, I just found like I did all this extra work, like a birth plan and like all this stuff, and when it came down to it, like I didn't need any of it. Like I didn't. And then like, you hear and again, like it's all this advice about what to pack in your hospital bag, and a bajillion people have so many different opinions about it. And in reality, like you could just roll up and you have everything there. I
Yeah.
didn't need, other than like having my own shampoo to like wash my hair when I was allowed to shower. That's the only thing I was like super thankful for. Other than that, like everything else was taken care of.
You mentioned talking to other women.
Yeah.
How many other women was in that loop?
Yeah, I talked to three other women specifically. Two of them are who I would qualify as my best friends. They've had multiple births and pregnancies, and both had a range of types of birthing experiences. Some baby, one of the babies was breech. Some babies were late, some were early, and I mean, we haven't even really talked about like postpartum yet, but it's, even all those aspects about like breastfeeding and like all of those different things, that's where I found a majority of the helpful nuggets that we needed. Additionally, our hospital did offer, and I will say I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Northside Hospital is considered the baby factory where
Factory.
they do spit out a lot of childbirths in a year nationally, but they also just have so many amazing like specialties, which is I think another reason why it's like just known for their
Yeah.
OBGYN practices. But um you know, it was so helpful to have like those experiences and talk with those women, but also the hospital had classes. And so we ended up doing some classes through the hospital that were extremely informative. So that's another place that we got a lot of our information. And like I said earlier, I try not to inundate myself with information. So I really stuck to hospital, friends, occasional some people on Instagram that I thought were like more factual than like this is my opinion about something. Um, and my doctor.
How many, just guess, how many qualified sources on social media did you did you have?
I would say I follow, and I don't know if you consider this qualified, but like both of the people that I found the most, like the
That's what I
best
mean.
information
Yeah,
were two labor and delivery nurses.
got it. So you looked at their credentials to give them some credibility.
Definitely.
Yeah, that makes
And I
sense.
think that that's also where I found like some peace in that they might share a specific experience, but what they would do is they would say like, in general, this is
Yep.
what to expect. Now, sometimes you might hear of this, but like they would just spit it to you out in a more logical way instead of like, hey, you're gonna have this thing and it da 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 da, and it's a 1 in 100 chance that that happens.
What was the one big thing that you learned through social media that you didn't expect? What was there anything like, oh, I'm glad I knew that?
Um, I, I honestly, it's not what you think. It's just that they're full of crap. I mean,
No,
genuinely,
that's a great revelation sometimes.
I I stressed myself out with like thinking that because so many different people were saying the same things about X, Y, and Z, birthing bags, birthing, taking whatever you're bringing to the hospital, expectations of like strollers. I mean, strollers and car seats were one of my number one stressors because, there's enough baby products out there to literally make your head spin.
Yep.
But that was my number one thing that just like sent me on a I wasn't, it was hard. It was a hard
Yep.
pick. And it's because you have so many people saying so many different things. It was overwhelming. So, in short, I did not find social media overall to be a good experience for the pregnancy
Yeah.
aspects because I think when you're pregnant, you're looking for comfort. Like
Yes.
you're looking for something that,
Reassurance.
yeah, you're looking for a community. And unless you, like, if you didn't have friends that hadn't been pregnant prior, I think that would be extremely hard because even talking to your mom is not helpful because it's been at least, I don't know, a few decades potentially since when, and they probably blocked it all out. So,
Yeah. Just real shortly, compare and contrast that to Tim's experience with social media. Was he on it? Was he looking? Yeah.
no, Tim had he got some books from the library and we found that one of the books was from like the 1980s, so that was really not helpful. Um but also he's not on social media.
Yeah.
So like I will say he watches a lot of YouTube and most of what he was finding because he went to daddy boot camp. It was a class that was offered through our hospital. It was extremely helpful and honestly they focused on a lot of things that like they in the women's information like
Yep.
we were not told about, like they got to learn how to like advocate for their wives and I thought that was really cool. But as far as just like generally speaking, I would say he would stumble upon some YouTubes about just like supporting your wife and then that class really, but he's not on social media, so a little harder.
I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it. So if you reflect upon this period, was social media helpful or did it raise your anxiety or did it diminish it?
Absolutely not helpful. I will say this though, it's a false sense of being helpful.
Mm,
You
of course.
think that it is because again, like you're in this weird thing and I this has like does not matter about your partner, it does not matter about like your mom or your best friends or anything. You feel alone. It is something that you can't explain to anyone else. You can tell them that you don't feel good. I had a really terrible first trimester. I was, diagnosed with gestational diabetes and like there were a lot of things with that while you can talk to people about it, it's hard. It's a hard
Yeah.
thing.
Yep.
So anyways, you're looking to feel better and you might momentarily, but ultimately, I think after going through it all, I'm like, that really wasn't that helpful.
Good. Okay. All right. We're going to shift gears. We're going to talk
Okay.
about attachment theory.
Okay.
That's a that's a newborn theory about attachment to the primary caregiver. And just describe it when you first heard attachment theory before we talked, what came to mind?
Um, Here, take that too. Attachment theory. I thought like how sorry, Timmy's taking baby because the cleaner's on their way, so I might also get up. Is that okay?
You can do whatever you like.
Okay. Um, so let me get Bailey out here. Pause.
Pausing.
Yeah, I'll walk her, Timmy, if you can take him. Did you grab his backpack? Yeah. All right, will you grab it? I'm gonna start walking so I can keep talking to Dad. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, it's a beautiful day out here, so I'm walking with Bailey to Patrick and Caroline's because why not?
Why not?
But Timmy,
Lucky
I mean,
you.
I know.
All right, so attachment theory, what did
Yes.
that spark in your brain?
Oh gosh.
And was there anything in social media that made colored that one way or another that you may have thought you knew, thought you heard about?
Um, Honestly, I don't know. Like from attachment theory, I originally just thought like, how is Teddy attached to me? I guess like I took it very literally when you
Mm-hmm.
when you
Uh-oh. Uh-oh,
Can
this connection's not good.
you hear me,
I
Dad?
can now. Yeah. Hello. May have to turn off the video. Uh, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. So attachment theory. So you took it
Yeah.
to be very literal how Teddy would attach to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I took it very literally.
Yeah.
Because I
Um,
wasn't sure that, like, I don't know. I guess I just thought of it also as only having two potential outcomes, like positively or negatively. But then when
yeah.
I started reading about it and like you actually introducing a stranger, then it like made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anything specifically that, I mean, think about it before you and I talked in detail. Was there any specific act that indicated positively or negatively in your mind what attachment was?
Um, you mean like, did I think, rephrase that? I'm trying to think like how I'm gonna answer that.
Yeah, it just sort of gets at the premise of in your mind, how would you prove attachment theory?
Oh,
What would prove a good attachment versus a negative attachment?
well, I guess at first I thought, well, I associated it with like people who could speak. So I kind of didn't think of it initially as with a baby. or I thought with or I thought with like, okay, crying or not crying. Um, like, can you like a and I guess too I kind of thought, well, maybe a positive attachment is when he feels confident enough with a stranger, but then, didn't, so they wouldn't cry. I don't know. I guess I thought of it two very different ways. Like, but then I thought it'd be weird if he didn't cry around a stranger. So is that bad? I don't know. I got myself very confused until I read it.
Yeah. Well, and I think for good reason, right? I think the point that we're making and would make is that there's many ways to interpret these things. And if it and done so negatively, interpreted incorrectly, you can create false anxiety, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I was talking to Tim about it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it has to do with separations, like, and I think that's a fairly common uh, thought, right?
Right.
And it's actually
Yeah.
has nothing to do with separation, and it's all about the reunion. Like, oh, okay,
Interesting.
because I thought the same thing,
Yeah.
by the way.
Well, and I think like to kind of dig on like a singular word further. I don't know if I necessarily thought as much of it about being separation, but more like, or maybe it is separation, but more like who, like being a level of being comfortable around, I guess, like strangers. I guess that's what I thought of it more, not necessarily about me specifically with Teddy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think a positive
Like,
attachment
I
is
guess
all
I took
about the
myself.
reunion.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, talked about your favorite media source. You had mentioned at one point being, I think, a member of a Facebook group. Is that true?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes. But that wasn't until after I gave birth.
Yeah, talk a
Sorry,
little
I'm
bit
trying to.
about that relative
Um,
to other medium. What are you getting out of that you didn't get out of, say, Instagram?
yeah. So I'm a part of a mother's group that is all like, well, I'm part of two different groups. One group is like an all mothers group for our area of it. And it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, it's everyone's personal experiences, which I feel like is different, or at least the way I perceived Instagram felt different because Like these are all just people posting like their experiences, or like they pose it as advice. Like they're not posing it as fact or as anything other than just like, hey, I'm dealing with this, and like
Yeah.
I need to know, like, is anyone else dealing with this, or has anyone gone through something similar? And I'd say that's the moms group here, but then I also am a part of another group. So we do follow a schedule with our little guy, which is called Moms on Call. Um, and it is like a sleep training program that is inclusive of kind of day-to-day schedules to get them basically to sleep through the night. So there is a fall babies 2024 group that I'm a part of, that's just moms from all over the United States, just posting about like transitioning their babies specifically on this program. Like as they get older, there's different schedules. So it's just, I guess again, like that platform and these groups are more, centered around these personal experiences that are helpful for, you know, other people to kind of say, like either commiserate or give
Yeah.
advice for.
What do you find? You find that increases or diminishes anxiety relative to your experience with Instagram, and why?
Oh, diminishes for sure. Because of, as opposed to at least the content that I was like the algorithm was spitting out for me, that was, it seemingly just made it feel like everything was fact, and like, it was a bunch of stuff to like look out for this, look out for that, and like, I mean, a little bit of lookouts are good and probably healthy, but like when you're when your algorithm is literally spitting out so many different lookouts of like for autism, like serious stuff
Yeah.
that like you don't want to think about. And it doesn't mean that like, I mean, you think about those things when needed, but
Hmm.
like when your baby is still in utero and
Hmm.
you're getting all this stuff of like, well, if you have your anatomy scan and they come back 88th percentile, and then God forbid, you go in for yours and it's like saying something similar, and
Hmm.
you're afraid now that your baby has something the matter, like, what the heck? That sucks. Whereas
Hmm.
these groups are, hey, I went through this, just looking for any other mamas out there that like, if you have any advice, like would love to hear it, and you can
Yeah.
you can read it or not. I just,
Yeah.
for some reason, and it also like, even if stuff didn't apply to me on the groups, it made me feel good to see other moms supporting moms
Yeah.
clear, like, and sometimes they just say like, I have nothing to add here, but just want to let you know I'm thinking about you. It's just like, that's good stuff.
So,
Whereas
so
the
more supportive than dare I say, how would you characterize Instagram? Does it feel judgmental, like you're not doing it right, or scary, like authoritative, too authoritative?
I'd say it's like, oh man, it's focused on like all the what ifs,
Yeah.
and
So what catastrophization?
right, yeah, yeah, I mean, and like on occasion, where there are certain little tidbits that were helpful, sure, but like,
Yeah.
it's all this stuff about, well, if your baby looks like this on the sonogram, or when your baby comes out, then this, blah, 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 and make sure, okay, well, there's 1,000 what ifs, like
Yeah.
why are we going down through so many different what ifs? And I think as Facebook, it just was like actual things that had happened, but it was asking for support or advice, not, okay, we're going to focus on the what if. I don't know.
Yep.
It felt more supportive and not, hey, you should be looking out for this. Like it was putting the onus on you. I'm like, I'm not a doctor. So the
Yeah.
best thing I can do is take care of my body and,
So
grow
more
this
more
baby
more supportive from real credible moms than what felt like catastrophication.
from honestly influencers. And then,
Yeah.
on
From the
occasion
algorithm.
and then occasion they're, peddling a product
Of
that,
course.
you know,
All right. We only got 9 more minutes. So,
okay.
and this is probably an easy question, but I would love to, if you know, this is the standard. If you could give your younger self advice, given what you know so far, what would you just a year ago or a year and a half ago, what would you say to younger Catherine?
Uh, d- don't go onto Instagram and freak out about anything. Just ask your friends and your doctor. And if you need more information or you prefer like a book, do it. I just, again, knew myself and the tunnel I would dig if
Yeah,
I started getting a little too crazy about something. So, I mean, that would be the biggest thing is even if there are credible sources on social media, take it off of social media.
yeah.
It just,
Probably pretty good advice for anything we find on
right.
social media.
Totally. Like use social media what it's honestly, in my opinion, meant for. You know, it's
Entertainment.
entertainment, you know, and if you're using it for like vision boards and, you know, home decor, like keep it light. It's it's not meant for, in my opinion, heavy stuff.
Critical
Um,
life advice.
right. Like maybe we should, and, you know, I know again that there are outliers. There are people on there who do a great job of that, but you know, telling the truth or sharing applicable information that's factual, but so much of it's not. So,
Awesome. Any last thoughts before we shut this down?
um, no, I don't think so.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll give we love, by the way, this last weekend was awesome.
Good.
So much
I
fun. Great family event.
It was very fun. He was
Your
so
son is
good.
beautiful.
Oh my gosh, I know. He's the
Almost as
best.
beautiful as his mother.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, he's
And
the
your husband's
best.
not bad. So you got a pretty good thing going on down there.
I know, right? I mean, it's kind of. I mean, he looks like my husband, so I feel like,
Not all the
you know.
time. Damn it.
I know, I know. His genes won out this time. But yeah,